I want to see how that works.
Okay.
Start to get us.
So,
Just communicate started.
like, don't you want to go to Zoom?
Yeah.
So the icon in the bottom left is the Zoom icon.
Oh, thank you. Start to get us.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the, yeah, let's mute that. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 20th meeting of the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. Tonight we have some administrative business to get through, then we will be having our public comment followed by a public hearing for 27-29 Main Street and some other application reviews. To begin, I'd like to look at the August 6th minutes. Were there any updates or changes anyone had for that?
Nope.
Nope. In that case, could I get a motion to approve the August 6th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'd like to move on to the updates. Do we have our village board and Ulster County Planning Board liaison here tonight? No. Next,
Never see everyone. If there has anything update from the board.
okay, no updates there. In that case, were there any updates from the town of New Paltz Planning Board?
Several small updates. Taco Bell is working on sign variants. Very precarious because they want a very, very large sign, so taking a lot of meeting time over there. Burger King has applied for some new upgrades, which is part of the Taco Bell complex, so they really want things to look the same at Taco Bell and Burger King, so they match. That's what the board wants anyway, but Taco Bell and Burger King don't necessarily want that. And the Bank of America is designing a new drive-through to make it easier for the bank and easier for customers and safer.
Thank you. Are there any updates from our Director of Planning, Zoning and Code Enforcement?
There are none.
Okay. And lastly, was there anything from the Environmental Policy Board?
No, we haven't met since the last time we got asked them.
Okay. Next, I'd like to discuss our public comment, public hearing policy guidelines. The last meeting, Rich provided us with a draft of some guidelines he's been working on. I was wondering if anybody had any suggestions or changes they'd like to see to that language.
Mr. Chairman, the last time I looked at this, I was concerned about having a time limit for speakers. I have looked into some guidance that the local government technical services department of the Department of State has provided. And even they recommend a time limit. So I'll withdraw whatever concerns I had about that, and whatever the board feels we should, if they feel we should limit the time, I will agree.
Thank you.
I would say I am for a time limit, but what I don't see is, I see the discretion for a reduction, but maybe add a discretion for an extension if there is a compelling need or something.
circumstances. Well, how does the board feel about differentiating between public comment and a public hearing session? I think last time I suggested the public hearing be allowed to go on a little longer than just general public comments.
Interesting, the guidance that I read was specifically about public hearings.
Okay,
There was really no guidance that I found, at least in that document, about public comments. And the guidance, even in public hearings, was between 3 and 5 minutes. Now, that's not to say, you know, the board may feel different, but, and that's what I read.
Yeah.
And that was rather recent. It was revised in 2023, that guidance.
Well, that would put 4 minutes on target. I mean, the only thing thoughts I had were that, I wonder if there could be a sentence there saying that you can put in written comments as long as you like. Because it sounds really, I understand the need for it to be, but it sounds very harsh, you know what I mean? It's very restrictive, which I guess is what guidelines are supposed to be. But I feel like, if somebody does have extensive comments to make, there should be some leeway somewhere where, you know, it's not just somebody wasting our time or somebody repeating everything anyone else said, but if somebody really had some cogent information that they were giving us that, I mean, obviously we wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be cut short, because how is this gonna be enforced? It's gonna be enforced by someone saying, oh, your time's up, you know, now you have to stop. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have a stopwatch, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like, it seems like I understand why these restrictions are, why one would wanna do them, because you want them there in case there's some sort of egregious, you know, too long of a
Right.
comment or too many people saying the same thing. So,
so you just think we should add a line about, you know, written comments are
written
always
comments,
accepted.
yeah.
And we encourage
accepted,
residents to,
Yeah,
send in written comments.
sure.
You know, and coming full circle on this whole issue of timing, which I've disclosed to everybody. I think we shouldn't be arbitrary and capricious about it. I think if we have a rule, the time is the time. And if time is up, and yes, I think we almost have to have a stopwatch on the table to be fair to everybody. If we're getting close to the end date and the chairman has to shut down the public comment, I think, not to besmirch your authority, Mr. Chairman, but I think the chair should say to the commenter, look, your time is up, but please submit written comments to us to fill out your thoughts, to finish your thoughts.
Yeah.
The one thing that caught me about this guidance, I'll be honest with you, was the guidance says to put a time limit on it gives the public more time to talk. Because if you have people at the front end of the meeting going on for 10 minutes, some may have to leave, some may get tired and leave. So it's for them more than it's for us, which convinced me to do it. But if we have to shut it down, and I know that's harsh, but if we have to do that, I think you can say, look, we're gonna shut it down, but please submit the written comment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I personally wouldn't try to do different timeframes for the comment or for the hearing, because I just think administratively it's confusing and hard to enforce.
Sure.
So can I mention a comment about the written, about written comments?
Yeah.
So when you close a public hearing, you can split it into two, you can close it for verbal comments, but set a deadline for written public comments of 5 days, a week, whatever.
Don't we
you
legally
choose.
have to accept written comments for 2 weeks or something after the public hearing?
No.
In the DEIS, there were certain rules, but in general, it's discretionary for the board.
So we
to decide to,
Yes.
yeah.
When you close the public hearing, we shouldn't be accepting further written comments at that point. Because you've closed the public hearing. Anything can come in before you open the public hearing. At any time, but once you close the public hearing, we should not be taking public comments, but if you close the verbal portion. And say, we'll accept written comments for the next 7 days, 10 days, you can do that by a specific resolution. When you close the public hearing, and that would Or you could set a policy that we will always accept 7 days or whatever the board chooses.
I think we probably wouldn't wanna always do
Yeah.
it, because sometimes we wanna be able to vote right after the hearing.
Good point, good point. Yeah,
I'm also a fan of the timer, and I know it seems a little tough, but I think it's fair because I don't really think it should be up to the board or to the chair that this person gets to speak a little longer and this person's getting on our nerves. I think that we have to give everybody an opportunity, the same opportunity. And the timer allows that because it's not a human being making that decision. I could see not using it when we don't have a lot of comments and it's a very gentle meeting. But we do have some public hearings and some public comment days where we might have 10 or 15 people that all want to speak, and we may have our own big schedule. And in the idea and in the beauty of getting done before 11 o'clock, it would be nice if we could limit to 3 or 4 minutes when we do have a crowd here and give everybody an equal opportunity.
Can you see the time elapse, on the, recording?
no, but if we make a set time, I'll make accommodations to have some sort of device that will
Okay,
do the time. It will certainly not be the board or the chair's responsibility to be monitoring the time. You need to be listening to the comments. Well, if you decide to do this, we will make accommodations of some kind.
Okay, well, so it sounds like the board is in agreement about keeping the time limit. I think it sounds like, 4 minutes is reasonable, although I like, the idea of adding a provision for more time. Were there any other areas, passages that you thought should be changed?
Well, where it says speakers are permitted to take only one opportunity to share their comments, speakers should provide only new or different information in their commentary. Repetitive comments made previously or at prior meetings are prohibited and may be interrupted by the chair to continue the progress of the meeting. I think sometimes we do have a lot of repeat people that feel passionately about a topic, and they may come to every public hearing on that topic, and they may come with different ideas or different information, or have spoken to new people or done some new research. And I don't really think that they should be shut out of sharing that. If the person is saying exactly the same thing, I could see, we could say, you said the same thing last time. But I mean, I think it's kind of,
So you want to just soften that language a
I
little?
did, I want
Yeah.
people to feel comfortable to come here and express themselves to our board.
Okay,
well, isn't that also a free speech then?
One recommendation
I
might
think
be
so.
that you say nobody can speak a second time at a public hearing until everyone has had the opportunity to speak at least once.
But we
Sometimes,
you don't want
yeah.
a person to speak twice at the same.
Right, but that's what I
same
think
level.
this comment was more about, not from meeting to meeting, but within one meeting.
I agree, but I think we should make that clearer.
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I had one suggestion on the next paragraph, about in addition to. Shall refrain from comments, gestures. Private discussions, I would also suggest that we say, displaying signs or written messages. Which has been kind of in for some other boards.
Why is it a problem?
I think it's distracting and it's a form of comment, like public comment where that's out of.
Somebody holds a message up in the audience, like. how does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah,
But then
like
we
if they
can
have
see it, but it wouldn't be on
signs,
camera.
like,
It wouldn't be.
like. Stop New Paltz apart.
Right, right.
Protests. Type of signs.
And you want, I don't know, I think that if it's not a problem, you don't need to stop it.
I wouldn't care if people wanted to
I
bring
wouldn't either.
protest signs in here.
Okay.
I
but
think-
would you
I think
care if
that's-
somebody
that's
was
part of free
shouting out in
speech.
the-
If they were shouting, yeah, but if they're just holding up a sign, like, what do I do? Like, get out of here, you know, I don't know.
If you'd like, Zach, there is,
Okay.
there
I mean,
is some template language about like booing, hand clapping that I can cut and paste and bring to the board to look at.
Yeah,
It's in there. The clapping.
It's already in there, okay, yeah.
all right, well, if that's template language, then that's fine, and if nobody else is, concerned about those like disruptive displays, then fine. I would say, yeah, I didn't have anything else that I thought, could be changed, I think all,
I mean,
Looks pretty
second
good.
to last, any speaker who fails to conform their conduct to the rules provided herein should be directed by the chair to cease speaking and yield the floor. I think if the person, really oversteps, they could be asked to leave, and that would be an appropriate place to put that. If somebody starts getting violent or very argumentative and then become disruptive in our meeting, I think that you should have the power to ask them to step out in a nice way and just remove themselves from our meeting.
I agree.
I mean,
Is
I've been in
that
meetings in
something
New Paltz where we had to
that
call the police before,
could- Really?
yeah,
Wow,
so hopefully that won't happen, but
yeah,
it's good to reserve that right.
The
To
chair
throw
can
someone
always
out.
politely ask, and if they refuse, then the next, I did have to call the police one time at a planning board meeting I was chairing where the person refused to leave, and we called the police and they escorted the person out.
It happens.
They were being very disruptive throughout the meeting.
right.
Is if somebody brought a squirrel, leave it right away.
Bring a squirrel.
Bring a squirrel, it's all over.
Okay, so we can work on the final wording of this and hopefully vote on that next meeting. And adopt this,
I just wanted to ask Emily a question. The first thing it says, a speaker must give their name and organization, if any, for the record. And I completely agree with that. I think the board needs to know who this person is, where they're coming from, etc. But is that legal?
I think it's okay, yeah, I mean, these are our guidelines, and I think it's fine to state the expectations, whether we would actually refuse to hear someone if they wouldn't do that. I think it's laying out a set of expectations.
The guidance that I read actually has a rather cumbersome sign-in process that they recommend. I don't think we need to do that, but that leads me to believe that people can give a name.
Doesn't have to be the right one, but they should give a name.
I didn't say that. But there was just, so I think they can give a name, yeah.
The short answer is you can't not allow them to speak if they refuse to give their name, but you can certainly ask for their name. And if they say, I don't want to give it, you move on. If they say, yeah, I'll give it, then that's fine.
okay. Well, if that's everything, then we will revisit this the next meeting and hopefully be voting on some final language. So that I'd like to move on to the public comment section. Did everyone who wished to make public comment sign in already? Okay,
Yeah,
in
I
that
have
case,
4 names here. The first is Jackie Brownstein.
Yes.
This is general public comment.
this is, yes, this is for general public comment, not specifically about, yes, please come up to the table.
I'm really glad I'm getting in before those rules.
Well, we would still appreciate if you followed the guidelines and did keep
I
your
do try
comments.
very hard. Some things are worth repeating, I have to say. And just as an aside, if I may, with your discussion about multiple people saying the same thing, there's some benefit to that. You're hearing that's an issue for a lot of people. Just an aside. That's not what I came to talk about. I'm Jackie Brownstein. I live in New Paltz. I'm the chair of the new UAC Housing Committee. I've spoken about this issue before, and I need to emphasize it because I think it's really, really important. This is in relation to the New Paltz Apartments. In the FEIS, the percentage of affordable units is stated as 10%. I don't know if that's been changed, but obviously your board has decided on 15% as,
The village board has decided on 15.
yes. And that's then a regulation associated with the development of new residences and units. So it's to me essential because the New Paltz Apartments offers us an opportunity that we're not going to have again, to have a number of affordable units. And on a big project like this, 15% is key. So I just need to emphasize that once again. I couldn't see that there was any alteration to the original draft, so I don't know if that has happened. I know there's some comments at the end of the meeting, which I probably won't stay for because I want to see the Democratic convention, but I think that I think that has to be clarified. Also, and I know this is a sticky wicket, but we're really concerned about the location of the affordable units. I know typically with the fair housing laws, they have to be integrated into the same facility. You know, you can't have a floor just for affordable units, but you have a very different development here, a student-oriented development. And we need to make sure that families can access the affordable units. The assumption that they can integrate into a building full of students is really, in a sense, discriminating against a family's willingness to have a unit in a development like the New Paltz Apartments. So there may be innovative ways to deal with this, and I think you have to seriously look at those ways in order to ensure that families will be included within the affordable units. So I really urge you to do that, and I hope you will. And that's all I wanted to say to you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the next person signed up is Tom Denton.
Hello. I am also a member of the UAC Housing Committee. At the last meeting that we attended, we asked various questions about the FEIS. And after the meeting, we were advised that we should talk to the New Paltz Affordable Housing Board to get answers to some of those questions. We've tried, hasn't happened yet, but by the end of this week, we believe that's going to happen. But we have been doing some research. We've found a very interesting website called studenthousingbusiness.com and a specific document called Tackling the Challenge of Incorporating Affordable Housing Units in Student Projects. The lead of the article says this. I'll paraphrase a little bit. If you want to build student housing, you know what to do. You build housing for students. If you want to build housing for affordable units, you do that. But if you want multifamily housing with varying income levels, that's a different building. And there are new mandates from municipalities increasingly that are requiring affordable housing units in student areas, and of course also in their communities. So given that fact, one developer says there are places that are mandating affordable units in new development, so at times you have to do it. You have to figure out how to bring together student housing with affordable housing units. That certainly applies to this project of the New Paltz apartments. The article goes on to describe how different developers of this mixed housing have leveraged incentives for building, of course, there are economic incentives, and have developed communities that integrate student and non-student populations in positive ways. So I really encourage this board to take a look at that website. There are various developers across the country who are cited, and you can dig in and find out how they have managed this integration. And with this piece of paper I'm going to leave, I gave a website, a bit.ly link for a very long link so that you could take a look at that. And one other thing that I'd like to follow up on. The FEIS on page 32, if you recall, gives a grid which spells out how the affordable units are to be assigned. And they use a formula, they say, that came from the Ulster County Planning Board. That formula is 70% one bedroom, 20% two bedroom, and 10% four bedroom is in this grid. Well, we talked to Kai Farmer of the Ulster County Planning Department. And that is not an ironclad rule. It's a guideline, and it's something that can be applied or not be applied to the particular development. And we think that this is a unusual, but getting more usual kind of development where we should examine how those percentages are applied. The original grid, which was based on 20 units, that was figuring the 10% law, it ended up with, I think, 27 beds. If you take the new law, which is 15% and would require 30 units of those 200, if you apply a different formula, I'll just throw one out there, 40% one bedroom, 50% two bedroom. 50% two bedroom would provide 15 two bedroom units instead of 4 in the original or in the FEIS. That would yield a total of 51 beds from 27 to 51. Of course, a chunk of that is coming from the increase of 10% to 15%. But another chunk of it comes from reimagining how they are distributed and getting more two-bedroom units, which are more appropriate for families or available to families. And of course, we believe that these apartments, given, as Jackie said, this opportunity here to get a good, meaningful chunk of affordable housing for families, it's really important to perhaps rethink how that distribution applies. And finally, I'll just reinforce what Jackie was saying. We're mentioning this now because it may affect the design. We don't know for sure, but we think the location and placement of the affordable units should be known before the thing is built and is sent to the Affordable Housing Board to determine who gets what. Because I don't know, but it might affect an arrangement of a building or two, let's say, or 3 in a circle or a line or whatever. So we're really asking that the developer consider the design given whatever distribution is going to be used in the end. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll leave this.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much, Mr. Bennett. Okay, the next speaker is Susan Denton.
I decided that my views were adequately represented by representatives by my colleagues here.
Thank you very much for that. And the final speaker signed up is Perry, and is it Goldschein? Yes, Goldschein. And we did receive your email today, and it was shared with the board members, so you're aware.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, keep that brief because they do parallel the comments I submitted. For Perry Goldschein, I live here in the village. My comments are related to the project PB 21-21. the multi subdivision on the corner of Prospect and Henry Du Bois. And, I have commented in, earlier proceedings, so I'm trying to keep these complimentary. We noted there was a recent letter from the engineer, the project engineer, indicating a couple of things. One of them was, no findings that they believe would require a secret review. Director Baden had informed us that that was something the planning board was going to be doing, so thank you for that. They also, the engineer's letter noted the ongoing drainage and sewer concerns from the project that multiple members of the community share, and we have commented on those. Since the last meeting where this project was on the agenda, there was just a week and a half ago yet another significant flooding event at that corner. We captured multiple community members, captured photos and video so board members could see exactly what's going on there. Probably worse flooding yet, despite the work that was done on Prospect Street in recent years. We remain very concerned about how the village can address these issues, let alone the developer, how they can prevent the proposed subdivision for lots from adding to it. It's also understanding that the engineering firm for the subdivision is the same as the one that did the sewer remediation plan for the village. And at least one of the other neighbors have submitted comments about that specifically. Their thoughts, there seems to be a conflict of interest that should be discussed by the board regarding the project. Beyond our concerns regarding drainage and sewage, we remain concerned about the ongoing disturbance of impact of developing 4 separate lots sequentially with a realistic time frame of several years. We've raised in the past, and again, multiple neighbors, share those concerns. In a neighborhood like ours that's been settled, quote unquote, for more than 10 years, we do consider alternative ways, not just protesting any development, recognizing that there's a right to develop. We've mentioned modular construction, we've mentioned prefabricated walls. To that, we also add simply the idea of developing fewer units, 1 or 2 single family homes, for example, or even 2 townhomes. Not unlike the net zero townhomes proposal or project before the board now, where instead of building 4 different structures sequentially, there could be 2 structures with 2 homes in each structure. Allowing the developer the same number of units to sell. If built sequentially, those 2 would take far less time than twice that number. So we are trying to come up with things that might be part of that discussion. In today's real estate market, there should be no problem with the commercial feasibility of those proposals. And then it also came to our attention recently that there might be confusion from some board members and other parties about some of the details in the Nipton subdivision map. We just wanted to clarify that the map identifies Caroline Way overlapping on the proposed subdivision lot. This is the same Caroline Way that the same developer had put in with the units on Caroline Way that he had developed years ago. And that we've been using consistently since then with our vehicles, all our vehicles, to access our homes and, ingress and egress to our development. Even with the current width, it's implausible, if not impossible, for certain emergency vehicles, for example, a fire truck, to easily access the narrow arm that Caroline Way is now. And then finally, what may look like separate driveways connecting to Prospect from units 8 and 10. Those are actually just flagpole properties, just dirt and stone pathways that provide pedestrian access from those units. Those units still have the only ingress and egress to their homes through the Caroline Way that I've described, and provide video again showing how narrow it is in the shape. So thank you for your time, and that's what I want to add to the record tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all that have signed up. We do have some people online, and I don't know if there's anyone else who didn't sign up.
Someone in the.
Is there anyone?
The two sheets up there?
Yeah, the next public hearing and the next sign-up sheet was for the public hearing, not public comment.
Well, that was an error. I signed the wrong sheet.
Okay. So we will switch your name, Don, is that, Don Carrot?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put you on this.
So I put some thought into what I'm gonna say, and any facts and figures that I'm gonna use come from 3 pages of the report prepared for you, or prepared for the developer, on the Parkway project, so for your reference, in case you wanna see what I'm talking about, I could print out those 3 pages and highlight the facts and figures I will cite. Don Kerr from Newcoats. And I did time this at home. I don't think I'll be going too long. So based on the info provided to the planning board, raw sewage overflows from our wastewater plant on roughly 20 days or so, or over 5% of the most recent year in the report. The permitted flow rate to our plant is 1.5 million gallons per day. But the actual peak flow, as reported by Passero Associates, has been 2.4 to 3.3 million gallons per day. And that's in the report I gave to you, more than double the 1.5 permitted number. That info is highlighted on page 12 of the report. So I'm asking the planning board to consider the effect of adding 600 toilets to that reality. I'd expect that over the course of this process, you all have been reassured with facts and numbers related to average flow rate to our plant. And what I want to speak to tonight is the important difference between average flow rates and peak flow rates in municipal planning. As I've highlighted in the report, Passero Associates tells you that planning for peak flow rates should account for flow at 4 times average flow rate, conservatively 4 times, maybe more. It's peak flow that overflows our treatment plant roughly 5% of the time, based on the information in front of you. So the concern is that the approval of New Paltz Apartments will increase that 5% poop rate into our river. So average flow, it's a real number. It's no one's playing games. Average flow is a real number, but it's artificially low because SUNY and the public schools are out of session during summer. And that brings down the average. SUNY and the public schools are also out of session during weekends and during winter and spring breaks. That brings the average flow rate even lower. So for the purposes of your planning, average flow, it's a very poor tool. The board would be well served to focus on peak flow, sometimes overflowing now at double our legal capacity. And I understand that there is some discussion of some pump and holding tanks to hold on to New Paltz Apartments sewage until periods of low flow rates return. And that approach seems really workable during average flows. But at those 20 days of peak flows, when the treatment plant is over capacity and raw sewage is flowing into our river, any holding tanks at New Paltz Apartments would also likely be experiencing peak flows. It doesn't happen just in one place and not in others. So they'd have to discharge somewhere. And there'd be no one else for those additional 600 poops or so to discharge, except with the rest of the overflow into our river. Picture draining a bathtub, it's full to the brim, while the water, everyday flow, is still running. If our plant's overflowing on a Tuesday, it's going to need to slowly catch up over time. So any holding tank at New Paltz Apartments would need to be gigantor to hold peak flow from New Paltz Apartments for several peak days. Yeah, think of 3 days of average flow multiplied by 4. That's one hell of a tank. So it seems clear to me that current problems can't help but get worse as a result of this project's 600 toilets. And what if there's peak flow with our plant already overflowing during the Super Bowl and 600 people in New Paltz Apartments flush their toilets during halftime? So I'm hoping this board will find a way forward with peak flow in mind. And I'm not opposed to this project. I do have 2 positive suggestions, which I'll put out. The focus of my professional life for 35 years has been water engineers. That's my business. And I know that any engineers who write reports like Lucero Associates, they're hired by developers who want projects approved. If their engineering reports result in projects being rejected, their phones are going to stop ringing at their office. So it's your part, the planning board, to cut through any rosy average flow scenarios from advocates to manage plannings in ways that consider long terms and big pictures, including the potential $20 to $30 million expense to our community of building a new wastewater treatment plant. So SUNY benefits from this project, and that's fine. I like SUNY, but they pay nothing. And the developers profit from this project. I don't begrudge them that, that's great. But they access and stress our infrastructure at no benefit to us. What does the village, whom this board is appointed to protect, get from this project as currently proposed? We get more shit in our river and a push toward building or expanding our wastewater plant. If it's overflowing 20 days a year or 5% of the time now, and you add 600 toilets on those same days when it's overflowing, you may have a problem. So my two proposals to avoid the overflow problem. The village currently has a plug and play drinking water plant in a trailer. It serves the whole community. And I just, as a personal note, I hung back a little bit when we discussed that project because my company, my office, had found and helped the company that made that plant hire their VP of engineering who oversee the design of that plant. So I had a conflict of interest. I did vote, but I wasn't that active in the discussions. So my two proposals. Many companies make turnkey wastewater plants. We have a turnkey water plant right now. Many companies make turnkey wastewater treatment plants for 100 to 10,000 people. I could provide you a long list. The developer could order such a plug and play wastewater plant to run independent of the village plant, delivered on a skid for a tiny percentage of the cost of building a new treatment plant. Or SUNY could do so, or in exchange for this dorm style housing, or they could both chip in. Another possibility would be to assess a wastewater fee to this and other large commercial projects, similar to the current recreation fee. So in conclusion, it seems daunting that this project, with its current approach to wastewater treatment, will not make our existing 5% wastewater capacity crisis worse. It's a $20 to $30 billion concern, and I appreciate your time. And you all know where to find me if there's any questions, but I did try to provide you with a report from which my comments are drawn.
Would you have an additional copy to include with the record?
Sure. It's fun. Yeah, I would urge you to follow the application review section. I think there's some misunderstandings about what's being proposed and what the issues with the current system.
So that would be a great relief, and I will appreciate reviewing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, please.
My name is Tim Rogers, Village of New Paltz Mayor. I just wanted to respond to the suggestion that there's overflow of raw sewage into our Walker River. I can remind everyone, and I'd love to reassure the community that our wastewater treatment plant is regulated by the EPA as well as the DEC. And the numbers that were described were from the previous commenter were not accurate. They are not representative of how a sewer plant works or how plants are metered. And I urge you to reach out to our Department of Public Works, our plant operators, our local regulators. We're lucky enough to have the New York State Region 3 DEC right here in New Paltz. All of this stuff is readily available. It's really important that we use real numbers, real analysis, and not hyperbole based on a misunderstanding of how plants work or how plants are metered. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else here that would like to make a public comment tonight? And anyone online? In that case, I'd like to move on to our first and only public hearing for tonight. Could I like to get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2403 2729.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mike, was there anyone signed up to?
Yes, we have 3 people signed up. The first is John Litton.
Yes.
First off, it's good to see that you're still working on the same projects that you were working on 3 years ago.
Is it?
Yeah, nothing like consistency in the long term. I've come to speak tonight about the project there, and I was fortunate enough to be able to sit next to the developer who answered 5 out of the 6 questions that I had, so we'll make it much more brief. Our primary interest, though, is during construction. I live on Wirtz Avenue, and Wirtz Avenue is 22 feet across. And with parking there, it's only 16 feet across. So our concern is that the dump trucks during construction coming down that small street. We've had several accidents already there this summer. We've had several missing mirrors from vehicles that tried to pass next to each other going up and down. With the dump truck being about 8.5 feet wide, that doesn't leave much room for error, especially if you have more than one car trying to go up and down that street. So what we would like to do, and I received the promises and of the developer that he will tell his construction crew that they cannot go up and down Wirtz Avenue. However, if it would be possible to include in any resolution a condition of approval that they not go up and down Wirtz Avenue. It's just simply too narrow. There's quite a few pedestrians that are in there. There are now some small children that are in that area as well. And there are students who will be actively walking up and down the street in various states of sobriety. So all in all, it could end up being a real difficulty. So if we could get that, I think that would be great. Otherwise, I think the project is wonderful. I like the idea of converting the bank building and not having it just sit there and eventually go down to a pile of stone. I like the idea of having the credit union on one end and having the gym on the other. And I like the idea of how they're going to take what had been the proposed apartments underneath the liquor store in a bit different fashion. And I'm also very grateful that instead of turning the parking lot into a private parking lot for use of the bank employees only, he's still going to leave it as a public parking lot because that is used very, very frequently during the summer. So that's all I'm asking. And thank you for your time and hope to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker, and I apologize, is it Rick Rouch?
Yes.
Thank you.
So my name is Rick Roush, and my wife and I own the wine shop on the proposed property for the development, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm just here to lend my support and say that we need to get something in that building, regardless of what it is. It's a beautiful building. It's slowly looking abandoned, and abandoned buildings or unused buildings don't look good in our town. So I know the landlord very well, and I've seen what he's done in the past. And there's several examples of his work right on Main Street, with the old Toscani properties. He's come through. So I'm just here to hope that you guys approve his project. I can listen to it in depth, what he has and his ideas, and it's great, you know. And as this sits now, it draws derelicts onto the property because it's not being used. People take their cars and leaving for days on end. You know, a fully functioning building with tenants in it will make a big difference in that beautiful downtown area. So just my support. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Rick.
you.
Okay, and the last person signed up, John, is it under Coughlin?
Under Coughlin, yeah. I promise I'm not gonna go over time. I just wanted, I am building a commercial building on Main Street. I'm all in favor of getting the Wells Fargo building to do something. From what I can see of the proposal, it makes a lot of general sense. And the only thing I would ask you is to move as quickly as you can. Sooner it's done, the better it is for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, that's all I'm saying.
Is there anyone else here in the audience or online that would like to make a comment about 2729 Main Street? Okay, in that case, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing for PB 2403.
So.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
And now with that, I'd like to move on to the application review, so. Mr. Joseph, please come forward.
Well,
Hello.
let me put this on the easel or are we seeing it? Just put it here.
I think, yeah,
Copy, but that's. I didn't get a comment on that.
You need these?
yeah, let's put it up, And does this include any updates from the site plan that we did last time?
No.
There's not, okay.
But we can go through the county comments, that's.
Yeah, let's discuss the county comments first. So you got a chance to review those?
I did.
They suggested few changes. Let's see here. So the first was adding let's see, curbing and planting that striped area that's highlighted on there. Yeah. Yeah, so
So eliminate the parking space. I probably curb some of it, but I don't want to pinch this down anymore because it's well limited, there'll be one way.
oh, I see. So you're concerned that adding any sort of curbing to that.
No,
that
no,
striped-
I can put a curb here. Okay, but this I like to leave straight because, you know, if you get a truck coming through here, it's pretty narrow. So that's the only issue, but you'd have this area would be curved. I think they're calling for a street green.
Yeah, is there enough space in that area you highlighted to do plantings?
Yeah, it's a parking space, so it's,
multiple trees they want,
they want to multiple trees around it.
yes.
Again, I was doing lower plantings that would grow high for, you know, to shield, or, you know, you wouldn't see the forest. If you do street trees, you won't be able to put the shrubs for. So I
May
think
I
it's kind of a either or, but I'm okay, whichever one the board would like.
Yeah, can I advise the board,
Sure.
because we don't often get the required modifications, these are required modifications from the Ulster County Planning Board. Meaning that these are things that they're requiring that the board implement, as they've recommended them. If the board wants to override that recommendation, it has to do so by a supermajority vote, which would be 4 out of 5 board members. So I just if these are more than just suggestions.
So what you're saying is, it's not an option
Exactly.
to curb or not curb.
Unless
This is what the
for-
planning board says it has to happen. We don't have discretion unless 4 out of 5 of us say, oh, you don't have to curb.
Exactly.
Okay.
Unless, you know, the whole project changes in some other way and you want to send it back to the county planning board, but it, you know, as it stands right now, these are requirements unless 4 out of 5 of you override them.
And there is also one additional caveat to that. If you override it, you must state in the resolution why you're overriding it. And that has to be sent back with the final action report to the county planning board.
So
It's a
they
piece
can,
that's missed by many boards, but it's a requirement.
and then that override, they
That
can send
overrides
back
the
to the county, they don't have a second chance to override, okay, thanks.
The board has the ability, it's a required modification. You have the ability amongst the five of you to say, we disagree, and here's why we disagree. And that's the key part, is the why we disagree.
Can I? So Robert Leibowitz, who is obviously a licensed planner, they signed a letter that says these are required modifications. And throughout that paragraph, they recommend things. Can we ask Robert to rewrite this letter so that he doesn't have required modifications that are recommended?
Because it's under this heading of required modifications, they are required.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. It's for the applicant, it's for the general public. It does not say clearly to anybody that these are required modifications. It says they're recommended. I mean, we shouldn't even be,
The required modifications is the statute of the law.
okay,
It is required, so whether he uses the word recommends or required, as Emily said, with the headline required modifications, they are required. So,
It's good feedback to them for the future, but I think it's.
okay, I'm the chair, so I will carry it back to the Penn County Board.
I
So-
thought we like before, you need to go back to.
Well, the board is who reviews this and he
Understand.
responds.
I understand, he's the professional, he's the one who put his license on.
I'll convey it to him.
Can they, yeah, tell him, get it right.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. So. I mean, I would like to see that striped area more forcefully delineated and planted. What would be the width of that?
Well, it skinnies down, so this space is probably 15 by 18. So this could easily be eliminated. This crosshatch, because that circle shows the whole thing. But this crosshatch section, it skinnies down to 19 feet. And if you have a truck pulling in there or someone's not completely in the spot, by just having the striping, you have a little more maneuverability rather than a curve, because otherwise I'll fall. That's the only thing. I mean, I don't mind, this space is completely fine. I'm just saying how tight this is rather than put a curve here and plant it. You may be better off. That's right.
I think it could be, the shape could be modified. Maybe it could just be a triangle instead of having that curve stick out a little more. And then maybe that would satisfy the requirements of the county planning board.
So clear, so you want me to do what with this? Now, this I can curve and plant, that's easy. I'm just a little concerned about this, but if the board feels that they want to put a curve here and plant all of this, I can do that too.
I'm just saying,
The county.
maybe it could be shaved, some of that curved area could be shaved off just to give it a little more width.
Oh, and I was just cut it back to here. I was cut it back maybe like here. Put the curve there, so I still have the 19 feet.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I gotta tell you, I'm with Terry.
Look, okay, I'll continue with my professional planner here. I wish the principal planner was in front of me. The board recommends the striping to the northwest of the proposed parking area be curved. Striping to the northwest of the proposed. This is north.
I mean, it's highlighted on
That's
this map
west.
too.
It's circled.
I see it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't help. Is the principal planner talking about this striped, that striped?
It's circled.
Yeah.
It shows where it is.
Is there a
It's
method
not clear to me.
for communication between the applicants and the county planning?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. To clarify, Terry, the law says that the county planning board gives recommendations, which is why he's using the word recommendations. The recommendations are then broken down into disapprove, required modifications, advisory comments, no county impact, or simply approve, depending on the situation. So he's using the language that New York State uses in the statutory. I'm not,
Okay,
I'm just trying to say that this is the language that I've been on the board 15 years, and it's the language that they use. So,
it's fine.
yeah.
Okay, now, okay, I'll concede that point. Tell me what striping to the northwest of the proposed parking area needs to be curved? What is it? What is it? Is it this
Yes.
and this?
I
There's two stripes and they're both either in the circle or the circle goes right through
think it was mainly referring to the triangular,
this odd little thing here.
yes.
Okay. But if it's required, don't we need to know exactly what we're telling the applicant to do? I mean, we're telling him, you must curve this.
My interpretation is that he was including the bottom striping, he would have made a bigger circle. I believe that he's just referring to the sort of elliptical, piece there. And I believe he's saying that the entire thing should be curved.
And it says to better define the through lane for the site, so I think that's pretty clear what he means, the curved part in particular.
And what if it was just curving and planting this whole triangle here?
Yeah, that's fine.
That would
Give you still
a little
extra
more
room.
space.
Right. Well, I wouldn't strike it, I would just put a curve here like this.
Right,
And then this would give you a little more, because this is,
yeah,
but what we're gonna encourage people to go this way, but people don't always follow, and if somebody like John was saying, about his street only being 22 feet wide, I myself have gone down that road, there's sparse spots on either side, you cannot get on them.
it's difficult, yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so that would be my suggestion, and I think that it would satisfy the county planning board, but I guess we could get their feedback on it. Next was, what else? Right, so they were suggesting street trees along the parking area frontage, like.
Right, and I'm okay with that, but I have to see what the law is as it relates to ATMs. Because Wells Fargo, this little red maple right here, if it grows more than 6 inches, they have a heart attack and they tell me to go shave it. And all these trees, I have to cut them back because they gave me chapter and verse by law, you have to have visibility, lighting, there's a whole standard that applies to ATMs. So
So could you come up with a plan to plant some trees that could work with their standard?
here's what I was thinking, on places, obviously you can put a street tree. I can put a street tree here. I could probably put it in here.
I thought that was the main area that this
Yeah,
was referring to.
Right, but I don't know because there's an ATM right here, there's an ATM in front. So I'm gonna have to go back to them and have them tell me what the requirement is. As long as it's not a prohibited, it's governed by New York State, the New York State law, and I asked them, I Googled it, I can't really find much other than the lighting and visibility, but they don't really tell me whether you can plant a street tree or not. So I don't really know the answer for that.
So even if those trees are 30 feet away, you think it could be a problem?
I don't know. To the extent, but you cannot have all these plantings because the trees are gonna overshadow, so it's gonna have to be one or the other.
The ATM is moving from that far side.
No, there's gonna be these two tower lines,
Right,
And then there'd be an ATM here at the front entrance as
so
well.
the ATM that is currently near the teller lines,
That's the Wells Fargo ATM.
and that's gonna stay as well.
I'm not sure.
Oh, so this is a non-Wells Fargo ATM that you're just putting on the other side of the building?
It's
in
the credit,
addition?
the credit union ATM.
So there'll be two ATMs, the existing ATM and the credit union ATM.
That's always been
Well,
done.
Well, Wells Fargo lease expires at the end of September.
No,
On the third.
a different bank
It's a
is.
different bank.
Okay,
So they'd like to stay. I told them they can't because what's going on here. I offered to put them up at the ShopRite Plaza. They don't move so fast. But at the end of September, they're not going to change.
okay, I wasn't clear that there were gonna be two separate ATMs.
Well, I'm planning on only being one, to be honest with you, but they don't move fast.
But their lease
Where do
is
you
over.
plan
in
to have the one?
Hmm?
Where do you plan to have the one?
Here,
So is that stuff gonna get removed? That's,
Wells Fargo, yeah, it's supposed to all be removed at the end of their term.
Which is September 30th of 2024.
Yes. And
Do they have an option to renew it?
well, they do, they can renew the whole building, but they don't wanna do that. So I said to them early on, I said, look. You have two choices, you can renew the whole building. And have yourself a good time, we'll sit there and do nothing. And if I find a tenant that doesn't need the ATM, we can leave your ATM. Well, I informed them a year ago, I found a tenant that needs the ATM, and I found a tenant for here, you have to relocate your ATM or I'm not renewing. They weren't ready to sign. Now they popped up. So I think we're getting to the point where they know they're not staying, because they're not gonna remove the whole building, makes no economic sense to them. So that's what's running in the back. But everything you read in the paper about them is true, they're very difficult to deal with.
I think there's a corrupt corporation.
If the board is generally in agreement with the county's comments, then it would be the applicant's responsibility to redesign the site to.
Well, the only comment.
Wire.
Well,
the only comment was that they could use some trees.
the trees in this, these are the two.
And by the way, I was very happy to see, the county say, as proposed, the project removes a dangerous parking design that crosses multiple parcel lines and causes unsafe traffic movements into a busy right-of-way driveway. The applicant's proposal to remove these 5 parking spots living close to the site's frontage helps to improve internal traffic safety and is recommended. So I was very happy to see that, by the way.
Yeah, I was too, and if you look, I have a picture of an aerial of it. And yesterday, or last week, I was there. And all these cars were parked here. They were still out, half in, half out, that the garbage truck couldn't even get through to pick up the garbage.
Just for the board's knowledge, I just went to the actual law, the ATM Safety Act, and there is nothing in there, it's all about lighting. And doors being closed for indoor, there's nothing in there about landscaping, so Wells Fargo may be saying that, but there's nothing in the law about it, so.
Okay,
So let's go back to the street trees. Do you have a species that you like and where you'd like me to put them? Maybe I'd go to the Shade Tree Commission and ask them.
sure, you could do that. I don't think the board has a specific species that we'd want to see, something that would thrive there and fit in with the rest of the streetscape, I guess. But yeah, I do think we'd like to see some trees along the frontage there.
And then eliminate landscaping. Well,
I think you could probably have both.
Some amount
Some
of
of-
low
Yeah.
shrubbery would,
Yeah.
yeah.
But stuff
We
is
should
not
see
gonna grow, it
requirement.
depends on how big the tree is.
Linden and mulberry are good trees.
Okay.
Linden because of the bees and mulberry because of the mulberries. I was very disappointed to see that they didn't seem to consider at all the development standards for the Gateway District. And that it seems like you're sort of hell bent on removing that last piece of grass, which may not sound like a big deal, but it really is, because you're creating a heat island. And that offered just even some small relief from the entire vast expanse of asphalt which you have there. creating all of the detrimental environmental effects of a heat island, including raised temperature at night, air pollution, I mean, the whole 9 yards, and I'm just, that's very disappointing to me, and I wish that you would consider that and would be more considerate of that and more flexible in your design.
Well,
The county's comments don't limit the board's authority to apply the village standards. It's not to say these are the only requirements.
Well, there is still, to satisfy that, there is still the opportunity to remove the 7 spaces across the street, which is 4 spaces more. Or sorry, 3 spaces more than you would have if the grass was there. So wouldn't the issue be solved by eliminating the 7 spaces across the street versus the 4 here?
Well, the difference is that across the street, it's like you've got these 2 different spaces. The space across the street does have trees around it now.
As long, well, it has trees on one side.
On the other side. And it is also in need of some remediation in that regard. It needs to have more trees.
We are planting trees.
But, if you were actually gonna make that kind of a trade, and the lot as it is, it's not like you're gonna be cutting down any trees across the street. You're simply not going to plant the trees you haven't planted yet. I would say, fine, let us have our green space over there where the farmer's market may or may not return. And where you have a lot of traffic and where there does need to be, I feel like there's a real need there for a respite from the heat island that's created by the asphalt. There's 2 picnic benches there right now. It's just, at one point in time, when the when people were working on the comprehensive plan for New Paltz, it was discussed that there's no sort of like town square, like there's no village square, there's no like village green where, you have the shops around and there's a place to be. If you look at any well-designed town, there's a green space where people can congregate that's near the shops and everything else. So I don't, mean to make a big deal over a little thing, but I just don't think it's a little thing. I think that's an important part of the project, and I think it's an important part.
I think the village, or I think they talked about that. County planning talked about,
I mean,
Do you know the owner of the post office, the owner of the rest of the property?
yeah, Bob, no, I know those guys.
we can't get into like
Okay,
requiring the rest of the, this other property to do things related to this
Well,
application.
no, I understand, but it's still, the application, it's one big space. I mean, it may be divided up into different owners, but it is one big space, and it's one big space that's in need of green. So I don't know how else to say it.
Had a camper there in that space, in a little pup tent for about.
I think with all the shrubberies and the trees and rejuvenating the building, I think it's gonna look a lot better, and I like green spaces too, but we're gonna have beautiful shrubbery and flowers and trees. And we're gonna have a nice looking building that's being used.
I don't think it's either or here.
We should make sure we pay attention to all of the required modifications. The other piece of it is about the area in front of where the drive-through lanes are. And they're suggesting that area should be redesigned as a public space with street trees, lawn, and benches or tables. So just want to make sure we incorporate that as well.
Oh, if you recall, that's what I originally proposed, of doing a little bluestone patio there with some benches and redoing the landscaping.
Maybe we should put grass there if everybody wants grass so badly.
I can do that too.
I mean, what do we need bluestone when we can have grass?
Yeah, I can remove the concrete walkway, remove the shrubbery, and put grass in.
You mean where the ATM?
That's a great idea.
I mean, that,
This picture here.
Yeah, I see.
So we're just moving the grass down the street a little bit.
Looking to the other side of the building.
Small, I agree with you.
Uh,
It's much smaller, but.
I'm open to that change as well. I mean, I would hesitate to remove all of the plantings there. I think some shrubbery against the building is a nice to sort of break up that face.
Well, if I take out, if you take out this area. You leave this here, you remove this. And then you put, I could put grass back in here.
Sure, and some landscaping as well to make it a nice
Yeah,
inviting area.
I'll have bloom because we're gonna, I guess what I'll do is. I'll figure out some trees, I'm gonna call Neil and see what they think about trees, but. And leave shrubs here. Want a street tree here or shrubs?
It says a tree.
Trees.
They want a tree, the county wants a tree.
We're gonna put a tree here. We'll put. I guess, again, depends on the species, and how big they're gonna be, so I have to be mindful of what the future is gonna be, not just for today. So, I guess depending on how big the canopy is, then that'll determine how much of this.
Right.
Is adjusted.
Yes, that sounds good to me. And so the board. It's in agreement with that, make those changes, and I think the other one main thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was the lot across the street and those 7 spaces, or maybe 6 now that we eliminated one of the parking spaces.
Oh, that's right, yeah,
So I think it is important to have some green space there, and if you are willing to land bank those spaces and plant that area, that would help the.
Alright, so let me ask you a question about that. Do you want? Like along the frontage, like take 2 there? Take 2 here, take 2 over there, just to kind of break it up. So you have a little more greenery in the frontage. Right, you have 2 in like kind of in the middle, 2 in the middle. So you have parking spaces, some grass, and. You know, then parking spaces, some grass, it just would break up the massing of the park.
I think that makes sense.
Sounds good.
And. So there would be 4, you would eliminate. Okay, 4 near the front and then 2 in the middle.
Correct, just total 6.
Yeah.
So you have this, which would give you more green space from the road, and then you'd have some parking, a little green space, and then some more parking, and that would, I think, just kind of break the massing, so it wouldn't look,
Yeah,
you know, it's kind of like that shop break of all those islands now, and all the trees, just kind of breaks up the massing of the parking.
okay, and would you be planting anything in those?
Well, we're planting trees all along here,
Right,
and then this is tree,
right,
so,
maybe some like low
yeah, we plant.
bushes or, yeah,
I have no water over there, so I have no irrigation. So I kind of have to put drought resistant plants in there.
I see.
Now, I don't mind planting it, we want to be happy to live.
Can I just ask that we consider, because it's already a fairly high, and I see there's some trees or shrubbery at the end, and the visibility there is already somewhat limited, just, I don't know the exact process of whoever needs to sign off on a site plan that would ensure that the visibility remains safe for people pulling in and out of at the
bottom
the
corner?
corner of Works and Main.
Okay, but wouldn't that tree be significantly higher up than the cars that are pulling up?
I assume so, but I don't know, and I just would want to make sure that
Yeah, no, the tree would be.
Right, and I don't know.
Well, how
how
about you just don't plant
That
the
bridge
trees.
is terrible. Going over and it's not that high and it's not going over 299. So that's why I'm concerned, just can we think through what the lines of sight are in ways that we clearly didn't when we put that new bridge in?
Oh, I see.
Over the walkway. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's
Oh, yeah.
really unsafe and it's not like, it shouldn't necessarily be,
I think
but
that's a really good point. We could ask our engineer to look at that.
yeah, just so that we can think through it, because I can't
For
visualize.
DPW, yeah.
Well, the site triangle is, a site triangle is an engineering formula.
Right.
So don't plant anything in the site triangle, nothing. So,
But
whatever that triangle is here, whatever this triangle is, that defined as a site triangle, don't put a tree. Because you're absolutely right.
Well,
But we know
it is higher up.
yeah, there's
There's
a wall.
there, so
Yeah.
I don't know. how
Right,
that
I don't know
factors
how
in.
it factors in, I'm just saying,
Well, let's say it's, the wall's probably. I think.
3 feet maybe?
Yeah, it's about 3 feet, and then if the tree to the first branch is another 4 feet, it's like 7 feet.
I'm
So
not an engineer.
I think you have 7 feet of visibility before, then the tree's gonna get big.
like,
Remember, the tree's gonna get wide.
why, whatever, I'm just saying if somebody could look into it, cause I don't drive a big car and I know that. Supposedly somebody did this whole thing on 299 when they put that new bridge in and the visibility is not there.
I can check with the head of DPW on what he wants for the site triangle
Okay,
for distance. I'm actually checking to see if there's anything in the code about it. Some codes have it.
Okay.
And if you do put shrubbery in these. In the middle of the parking lot here, make sure that, again, they don't grow high enough to impede people's sight getting in and out of parking spaces.
Yeah.
What's that distance? I don't know, but I'm sure there's a formula. They should be very low,
I get the juniper, they was concerned.
because otherwise they're gonna grow.
Yeah.
Somebody's
I'm
gonna.
gonna put some boxes in there and keep them small, and then you have green year round.
The boxwoods aren't good because you trim them and then you cut all the possible buds and flowers off and they're useless to the bees. And they just grow and they're ugly.
Well, that's what all that is.
I know.
This is all bee friendly. We did that here too, along this. And here, we did all pollinating plants.
Mhm.
So that's
Okay,
been.
well, yeah, I'm sure a landscape architect can help you with that or whoever
Yeah,
you
I'll have-
use, helpful. So,
Perfect.
thank you, were there?
So just one quick question I was gonna ask last time and I forgot. How many jobs do you expect will be between the new credit union and the gym? Estimate is fine.
15?
That's a lot of jobs for downtown New Paltz.
I mean,
Walkable jobs.
If they can afford to live there.
okay, anybody else have any questions? I can have these done and back to you. The next.
I guess, the only other thing for the board to consider is if we think, that with these changes, we should authorize the preparation of a resolution of approval.
Does this have to go back to the county again?
It does not, as long as you're doing what the county requires, it does not have to go back to the.
I would support that, Zach.
Okay, I mean, is there someone?
Just if you're ready to, I mean, if you're ready to do that without seeing the final version, then you might want to see the final version, but it's the board's choice.
Right,
Well, we have everything except knowing the trees from the slope.
If you feel.
I
the
think
next meeting-
conceptually, we know what it's going to look like, we don't, yeah, obviously have a final site plan, but. Okay, Rachel, you're not comfortable with it, I think I'm ready. Terry, Nikki, do you have any opinions about? Whether it's at a stage where we could authorize preparation?
Yeah, I guess, depending on what the final site plan looks like, you know, because you're gonna have to include the landscaping on your plan. Redraw that triangle.
I would say it's 96% there at this point.
Oh, I agree.
We know it's gonna be there.
I agree with you. I just don't want the county coming back and saying, well, they shouldn't have put a triangle in there. You should have put what we approved.
No,
No.
they're not.
The county is satisfied if you have taken their comments. You can go beyond what the county said.
Take a vote.
You didn't turn anything down with the county said. So, the other thing, Zach, is you could have a resolution ready, and if you have more questions or comments, you just don't consider the resolution. There is that.
Yeah, well, why don't we just, take a vote, and can I get a motion to authorize our attorney to prepare the resolution of approval?
So moved.
We have one movement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And one nay.
So to get on the next agenda, I gotta,
So you can get it to me by Monday of next week, so. Because the following. I would need it a week ahead of the meeting.
so the next is on the 3rd.
Correct. But there is a holiday in the middle of that with Labor Day, so that's why I'm asking Monday rather than Tuesday.
And then if I miss that, the next meeting is 17th.
Correct.
Okay, I got some variables. I got the landscape architect's gotta get involved. The civil engineering is easy. I'm trying to track that.
I think we will need an updated landscaping plan as
Right.
well as a new
Yeah.
site plan.
No, I understand that. That's the only delay.
Understood.
She is the longest lead time.
And at what stage do we have the review of the site lines? Would we wanna ask?
I'll check that, I'll check that with the head of DPW tomorrow, because he is the one that is in charge of the roads. I mean, the engineer can weigh in, but ultimately it's the head of DPW. So I'll just go directly to him and ask him to look at it, and I can get you that answer of how many feet he wants that site triangle to be.
Yeah, whatever Blue says on it.
Yeah.
You know. All right, anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Next we have PB 2121, Prospect Street, W. Good evening. So the village engineer did review your stormwater plan. Did you see his comment? Yes, his memo on that. And I guess just in response to some of the public comments we've been getting, can you address how your stormwater water plan will help with the current situation? Or hurt, or how it will change the current situation?
Not knowing specifically what he was referring to, where it was flooding, but I know issues have been behind Barry's house. There is a stormwater basin there, or drainage structure.
Did you see the picture from the flooding?
Here, I can give you this copy, like you just sent it today.
Kind of hard to identify.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to-
I can forward the email to you tomorrow.
It's pretty flooded.
Yeah.
But there's no orientation on it picture. I don't know what I'm looking at.
It
I'm
does.
just looking at what? Am I looking south on Prospect Street? Am I looking?
I think this is maybe the, that small road that goes to Turtle Rock.
Across the street,
Yeah, and then you're looking south down Prospect Street, I believe.
so
So
it's
it's not
from,
even, not even in front of the property.
Yeah, I think it's down by, the next lot where it floods. I'm not aware, I'm on a high spot.
Do you have your site plan there?
Yeah,
Maybe we can see.
sure.
Now, I understand you may not have all the side streets on there, but.
It goes far out. So I'm just rotating, north is this way, right? Like, I believe this is the issue, back here. There's a, There's underground drainage that comes through here and goes to, there's stormwater that goes underground here, and this is usually where it backs up because there's debris that gets into the inlet.
Okay,
It's been ongoing, 20 years that I know of. It's just a matter of maintenance.
right.
Part of the whole process of what we've been doing is, we're trying to divert stormwater, knowing that they have flooding issues here. We diverted stormwater this way more, on Prospect Street. I think that's addressed in the engineer's letter.
So this part of the street,
Yeah,
the water flows
right.
south,
Mhm.
and here it flows north,
Right.
kind of right in here
Right,
somewhere.
it's the high spot.
Is the high spot.
Right.
So you're trying to divert water from this side to that side.
Correct, and that's addressed in the engineer's report.
Okay.
Got it.
The other issue that I heard him bring up was about the driveway on Caroline Way.
Yeah.
And he's pointing the finger at me, but they've been using it for 15 years and they subsequently paved it, so. That was nothing to do with me.
What are we
What's
talking about?
the issue? Like, I don't really understand the issue.
There's
From
an
what I
easement
understood
here.
is that you can't get fire truck or.
Oh, there's that
emergency
too.
access.
Yeah, that was second point, right? So there's right of way here, there's right of way here. I believe over the years, they've probably been going tighter and tighter on the turn, and they've come onto this property. And they've also paved this. It used to be a dirt road. Or dirt. When this was designed, it was designed for a fire truck and it was approved by the village and the fire chief for the radius here for a fire truck.
So that's where they're supposed to be driving in, or they're supposed to be driving?
They drive in here, they have flag lots so that they have frontage, these two lots. But everyone has, these 5 lots have a shared driveway agreement for this easement and this easement. So the access is through here. I mean, they could conceivably come in this way if they wanted to put a driveway.
And these lots would not need to use that,
Correct.
the new lots.
Would that new lot reduce the width of the drive, the Caroline Drive in any way? If you're saying they're encroaching onto the property, are you going to be removing some of that road?
I haven't addressed how to handle it yet. I didn't wanna.
Okay,
This is all property that you owned, all of it, right?
I previously owned these 3 lots.
Mhm.
I built houses on them and then I purchased these lots. And then built houses on them. So the original easement was here and we added to it, and as part of this subdivision. Village Planning Board had DPW and the fire chief review for fire act. So there's record there that's been done.
Okay, because I mean, I have another issue with the not with the driveways that are already there, but the ones you're proposing. Basically, the bike path, the bike lanes, they've been planned for years. They're tearing up the entire road. It's a huge major project, and I feel like as a planning board, we should be looking to the future, and we should be looking to plans that have been made for the community. And that the very idea of just putting 2 new driveways going right into the bike lane, which on that side of the street is gonna be going in both directions up a steep hill. It's just, I find it just untenable. I think that the driveways should not be coming out into the brand new bike path that we're working so hard to build right now. There aren't that many driveways that go into it. Most of the homes on the, I guess that's the south side of Henry W. will have their driveways on the side streets. But you're gonna have a lot of bicycle and pedestrian traffic up there going up and down this hill. And I think there's the very idea of just putting 2 brand new driveways into that is just, it's counterproductive. And one of the things the guy suggested, the person who was commenting was, maybe make 2 duplexes or something, if you really feel like you want to get that much more out of this segmented development. But,
I mean, I think
I think it goes contrary, when you're looking at the EIF, it talks about the comprehensive plan, which, hasn't been changed since 1994, but even in those days, people knew that what the words that they use are walkable, bikeable.
Are you suggesting a townhouse when you say a duplex?
Townhouse, duplex, whatever, how.
Like a 2-family house?
Yeah, and those are actually very, very good because that way, when the person buys the property, they're able to, pay their mortgage by renting the other half of it. And so I feel like that's just, a practical alternative to dividing this up into 4 lots. And you were saying before that, they're very small lots, but they're in conformity with the other lots there. Well, it's because you built those other lots and you made those other lots small. And it was because they were supposed to have some sort of shared property there. Isn't that true? That you got, what I was told was that there was some kind of concession that was made. Well, in any case, the lots are much smaller than most of the lots on Prospect Street.
So you're suggesting 2 lots with 2 2-family houses?
Correct. That's my suggestion. Yeah.
So these lots in the entire downtown village on the north side of Main Street, they've been designed since the 1920s. I'm 50 years before I was born. They're smaller than these lots. They're all 1/6 acre. This is well before my time that all these lots were created in the 1920s. So this has nothing to do with me, these lot sizes. These lots are bigger than the rest of the lots. So you're incorrect with that. And there was no concessions made in any previous projects. Everything I do here is and nothing's been asked for variance. It's what your laws have provided for and what the lot sizes have been for over 100 years. This is not me creating something new and smaller. It's certainly not the case. These lots are bigger. These lots are bigger.
Misinformed, I thought.
I have been in touch with the engineers who've been designing this. I have allowed them more space on the side of the road, and that's allowed them to move the bike path away from the road more to make it safer. So I've been in touch with them for the last 4 years.
Lloyd,
And they're aware of these driveways as well.
just throwing it out there, you have, I don't even know if it would be feasible, but Rachel's concerned about multiple entrances onto. Would there be any contemplation that like the 2 properties closest to you may share a driveway and the ones on Prospect would share a driveway or be open to that if that? I don't know, I'm just saying if there's
Like one driveway.
one driveway for the 2, yeah, like you just have one entrance to each street.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We've looked at that. But because of the stormwater controls, they have to be down slope.
Okay.
So I spoke to my engineer originally about doing, I'm a big proponent of that, trying to get it one. But he needs the stormwater on the downslope side of each lot. I could speak to him again for when, if this gets approved, and I come back for site plan approval, that can be looked at.
So really, for these things right now, you don't need Caroline Way for emergency access to the subdivision properties or for actually even construction.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this project is completely separate. This is in the past. This is.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what that was about.
And this is a private road. It's not a public road either, so I don't have any rights to enter on it.
So we have not received any official comments on this from the county planning board or any other agency involved in building the bike lane. I forget exactly who's responsible for that. Is that the town?
The town.
Yeah, I did send the notice of intent to seek lead agency with a coordinated review to the town. I
Okay,
did not hear back, but that was not seeking comment, that was just the notice of intent to seek lead agency, so. Emily and I think you and I agree we haven't established lead agency yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, so.
okay. Well, that's something we can do at this meeting, correct? So I can. I guess, I have a motion to declare the planning board as the lead agency for seeker.
So move.
Second, all in favor?
That's actually the seeker, I have to do a roll call vote.
Oh, all right,
So it was Terry and who made the second?
Rachel?
Great, thank you. Okay, so Rachel,
Aye.
Amy,
I,
Nikki,
I,
Terry,
Aye.
and Zach.
Aye.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify also that we did receive that revised EAF part one before we circulated it, so it was the
Yes.
revised version and
Yes.
all the other.
That was received in June and I circulated that, yes.
Well, in the interest of moving this forward, I would like to look at the EAF part two tonight. I think we can at least, get through the short form
I did bring
here.
blank copies of it.
Okay, excellent.
Thinking that you might do that tonight, so.
Thank you, Mike.
And there's, I think I printed one additional, so, boy, you can follow along, I believe I did.
Thanks.
Maybe I didn't, yes, I did. I printed one for you too.
Oh, I'll take one too.
Thank you very much.
So number one, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? No, not material conflict. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of the land?
modern.
Can you just explain this one a little better? This land is zoned for residential, but would it be, since it's being developed, is that considered a?
Well, I mean, the
Impact.
way we go through this, if you think there's a moderate impact, then we would check that and then you could explain in your part three. Whether or not that results, whether that impact is significant
Okay,
in the context.
so. In that case, I guess I would say there's a moderate impact.
Yeah, I would agree.
I agree with you too.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No,
Not mine.
No.
small impact.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No, it's
Is
not.
that applicable? Is it in critical environment? No.
No.
You don't have any of those. Yeah,
We should, but we.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure from mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Yes, because of the biking.
No. It's not, it's not an adverse change.
And it's already being addressed in the site plan and development of the bikeway. It's
Yeah, I
already
guess I would lean towards small
Me too.
impacts.
that one, if it is being addressed, you would just state in the part three how it's being addressed. So this questionnaire is just, will it or won't it?
So the answer would be yes. I mean, I'm a bicycle commuter, so I guess I have slightly more impact.
Small impact.
It has big impact on me.
I mean, if we say moderate, then it would just be explained. It doesn't necessarily have to result in, major mitigations. So I guess I would like to just discuss it in the part 3, and so I lean towards
Moderate.
moderate. Will proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Say no or small impact. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? Again,
A small impact.
small impact. Public-private water, wastewater treatment, small impact. Will proposed action impair the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Again, I would say small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? No, small impact. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? I think that, this has the potential to, so I guess I'd lean towards marking it as moderate and just address it in the part 3. Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
that's fine.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay, so yes, that's all. So there will,
So
there's
in order,
3.
a question for me, because I haven't dealt with this board before, so the part 3, is that something the board would like me to have the engineer review and write, or would you like me to do it, or does the board do it? That's my question.
Usually, in the past, I've done it in consultation with the consultants.
Okay,
for
perfect.
various things, but
Perfect.
now that you're here.
No. We'll figure it out then, between the two of us and.
Shared
Okay,
workload there. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And then I guess the only other thing with this application I wanted to see if we could do is just refer it to some of these other agencies to get their comments, specifically on like the driveway interface with the
Like the fire department.
road, or the fire department. We got our engineers looked at the stormwater plan, but
Yeah, he
Can
has,
we-
he has signed off on the stormwater plan at this point. The last comment he had, it was missing the engineer's seal, which was been taken care of, and he circulated an email back to me that I think I printed and put it in a PDF that he had no further comments. There were 3 comment letters he made over a period of 3 different times. And in his mind, they've all been addressed, and he reviewed the part 1 of the seeker and had no questions or concerns based on the part 1.
okay. So can we refer this to the Ulster County Planning Board? I mean, it
Yeah, I think,
fits the
I think you can.
requirements.
So you want to send it to the fire department?
Yeah, so could I get a motion to refer this site plan PB 2121 to the Ulster County Planning Board? The Town of New Paltz Planning Board, since they're, or sorry, just the Town of New Paltz, since they're the one that's building the bike lane.
Did that go to their highway or to their town?
Highway,
Highway? Okay,
or both.
well, let's send it to both.
Sure. And was there what specific reason you wanted the fire department to look at?
Usually we do that to make sure the fire trucks can fit and do what they have to do. So often we do that.
Okay,
It's not necessary, we
Yeah.
don't think it's
Well, at
necessary.
the moment, it's just for the subdivision itself, so the house sites are proposed, when it'll come back for a site plan.
That's fine with me,
So,
I just
I mean,
think
yeah.
that when
It
we have
doesn't hurt to
a
ask
new
because the
development,
lines
it's
might.
always
need to
good to
move on
have a
the
fire
subdivision.
truck that can put out
Yeah.
fires there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we've had the fire department, when specifically, more so when it's like a shared driveway and make sure that the fire truck's fit.
Of course.
Like Mike said, we would have to come back for site plan and I can revisit this part too, to see if we can try to figure out a way to.
So we could wait
It
for
would
the
be-
fire department for that.
Okay, so I guess just those three agencies. So yeah, could I get a motion, referring those
So moved.
to those agencies?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I think that's all for tonight.
Thank you.
we won't have the county planning board comments back before the next meeting, so I'm gonna hold off and put you on the September. 17th meeting, because there's no. You're not gonna have the comments back until then, so.
All right, so
Is there another public hearing as part of this process? We had the one prior.
There's a public hearing, I don't think there's been I think there was public comment prior, but I don't know that there has not been
There
a
has
public
not.
hearing yet. But we have to complete the seeker process
Sure.
before we do
Okay.
the hearing on a subdivision, yeah.
With the wheels in motion, if that
Yep.
was possible.
sure.
We could potentially do the part
I was
3 at the
wondering
next
how to do
meeting.
that, yeah. Do you wanna do the?
Yeah.
On the September
Yeah,
3rd meeting, now all we would do is do the part 3 of seeker. And then the 17th, you can address the county's comments and any other comments received on the actual subdivision.
okay,
Unless you want to have the rest of that input before you
Yeah.
do your,
Yeah,
secret determination.
yeah, there is that too.
Either way.
yeah, I
Lot-
mean, if
lot of
it should,
options.
site plan were to change, then that would affect the part 3, so.
Good night.
I think I'd rather try to do it all at that one meeting, September 17th, but
Okay.
Yeah. All right, well, yes, we'll see you then. And our last item on the agenda is the Falls Apartments. We got the FEIS red line 2 weeks ago. Here. So, yes, come on up.
And if I do have one additional paper copy, if any of the board members would prefer that. It's in the office.
Is there anything you want to, any way you can just kind of give us a high level overview of the changes or anything you want to highlight with?
Well, we have on, I think you should have, a few folks on Zena, who is obviously our lead. Consultant on the FEIS, I'll let her kind of do an intro as to the comments that we received from last week or last meeting. And then are addressing those and then sort of what our goals are here tonight.
That would be great.
I don't know, did she unmute herself or did?
She's on mute, looks like she's on mute. Maybe you guys have to unmute her.
Yeah, I'll just have to unmute her, sorry.
Should go on camera too.
No, actually, she should be able to unmute herself. Who's it?
Zena.
Zena.
Yeah.
Hi all, I'm here. I'm having trouble finding my unmute button. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for having us on the agenda this evening. Just to describe the methodology, I collected all of the comments from the previous planning board meetings Also took into consideration some of the additional public comments that we received, even though it was outside of the public comment period. We drafted a comment response letter back to the planning board with responses to all of the comments that we received. If those comments resulted in changes to the final environmental impact statement, then I made those changes in red lines in the document. So you all have a copy of the comment response letter as well as the red line changes to the FEIS for your consideration this evening.
Okay.
So I had trouble with some of the language and I made some edits, but I don't think I sent them. I just sent them here at the meeting, so I wasn't sure what the proper procedure was to.
Okay, do you wanna just go over them briefly? Just tell us about them.
Sure, I had, wait, let me find it. Yeah, so I had some problems with the sort of the way the language was about, the assumption that an increase in supply was going to result in, was going to automatically result in the increase in the amount of affordable housing, that the increase in the housing supply. And my reason being that it didn't happen that way in Kingston, it didn't happen that way in New York City. There are just many other factors that go into it. So I just simply rewrote those 2 paragraphs. And I sent copies I sent it to the planning board just now, but I can also send it to you. I felt like the language was very, very general and not really specific to the project itself. And what the situation here is with the student rentals.
So this is your text on
That
the
is
side?
my text on the side. And I have given an arrow where I think it should go. And I put red lines through what I thought should be eliminated. What I'm replacing it with something that's more truthful and I feel represents the situation better. Because if I'm going to put my name on something, it's not going to be to this. It's going to have to be something I can agree.
But I mean,
Makes sense. Okay.
I don't necessarily agree that increasing supply doesn't reduce prices, like you're citing.
I didn't say that. I said that it's not guaranteed to do it. There's a reason, the reason why the landlords choose to rent to students. There's a reason why this project is choosing to rent to students, because they have a higher price point. That's the reason. That's the economic incentive. They can pay more for housing because they have access to student loans and parental assistance. It's temporary. They're going to move out. So you're less likely to have to give up your security deposit because they don't fight for it. I mean, there's a reason why the landlords in New Paltz are renting to students, and it's not, it's because it's the money. And I feel like the other thing is that, what we're doing here, we're providing this student housing, and this speaks to some of the comments that were made earlier, is that if you've got all these apartments that have individual rooms with their own bathrooms, okay, so that is not the type of housing that a family is going to rent. It's, obviously more expensive if each room has its own bathroom. It's not practical. That's not the kind of, so I looked through the thing. I could not find any of the plans for the apartments that weren't like this. And then it said, well, look, it's Appendix Q. I couldn't find Appendix Q. But when you look at these, are any of the plans that you have for housing, are any of them just normal, like, with 1 bathroom per floor, as opposed to designed for students, which is, obviously an improvement on the students having to share a bathroom or whatever, which is what they would have to do with these converted houses, or even in the apartment buildings that have been built all over town for students, which are, basically, it's usually, it's 4 4-bedroom apartments in one building, because that's the limit of what they can do in the town. So what I'm asking is, I didn't notice that any of the floor plans had changed to reflect a family rentals. I think that's a valid point, and if I missed it, if you did have these diagrams, if you did have these floor plans that were designed for families to rent them, I didn't notice them. I didn't see anything like that. And I think that speaks to what they were saying in the public comment, that
Is that in the FEIS, the
what?
family, this section about family rentals?
No, but that's what, when you're providing affordable housing, we've been talking about this all along. It's a mixed, it's supposedly a mixed use development,
It's not a
multi-income.
mixed use development, it's an apartment project.
It's an apartment project, but
They have 1
multi-family.
bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 5-bedroom units, so, that accommodate all sorts of different, users, so. Whether it's a family or not, and because the project will have a 15% requirement for affordable, we think we've already gone over this multiple times. That
Right.
It's gonna be, there's already gonna be a set percentage of units set aside for affordable, and whether it's families, anybody can rent here, a family can rent here. I don't know how we're gonna end this conversation to move this along, because it keeps going back, and I don't even think this is really an environmental impact issue anyways. If you're providing a range of apartment options for a range of residents, I don't know how I'm supposed to, providing more detail on
Okay, so
what's gonna be built.
how is there a range of options if they're all designed for each room having its own bathroom?
That's just the way we design and operate. That's an operational issue. That's an operational decision we make, as we said this all along, this is a multifamily, it's open to everybody to rent. We operate it for mostly predominantly students, and we get a mix of students, we get a mix of families, we get professors, young professionals, but majority of them are going to be students, because that's what it's designed and operated for, and located adjacent to a university without any purpose-built student housing in the market.
So, I think we will take your edits here into consideration.
Okay.
If you have any other sections that you want to specifically highlight, and do that. But yeah. Were there,
I read
Go ahead.
follow. What?
did you have
Not on the affordability on the EMS.
a, sure, yeah, what was your question?
I had a hard time following the response for 42 about the EMS study. And the impact on, because we have a volunteer fire department. And I don't see fire department calls here, and we have an EMS system that can't fund itself. So what looks like 53 additional calls isn't just 53 additional calls. It's, I don't know the breakdown, but every time there's a false alarm, there's a fire alarm, there's an EMS call, and the amount that it taxes our volunteers who are diminishing in their own capacity and numbers. I don't see that reflected in the analysis, and I don't feel comfortable saying it's just a de minimis thing, and I don't know if the EIS is the right thing. I just know that we've been talking about the EMS impact, and we're putting it in here. So I'd like to have some sort of, I'm concerned about saying it's relatively stable, given the volunteer impact, having had a lot of very close family members who were impacted by that. And I know the burnout rate, and I just don't know how much longer we can continue that.
Yeah, Rachel Felske's on with us right now, and she's kind of went through that, and we've, it is a difficult you know, additional impact. It's not a direct impact, right? It's trying to understand what is those tertiary impacts. And it's not a number, exact number, an exact science or exact dollar value either. But I think from her experience, and I'll let her speak in a second, just, you know, from doing this, you know, all over the state, all over the country for other developments, whether it's multifamily, student housing or everything that happens, we try to use the data from other projects and other, you know, fire districts to kind of help calculate that and survey them and ask them for their data, ask for them for input, and then we try to calculate that out. So it's not an exact science, but we do it. I think they do a pretty good job of getting as close as possible. So I'll let her follow up on the back.
Yeah, and specifically, if you can just talk about how you accounted for the fact that we have this volunteer force here, which is not necessarily the case in a lot of places, and I haven't read the county study, to be honest, and a large volume of calls is in Kingston, which has a paid department. So I don't know, like, to the extent that you are able to address that impact, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. We have spent a lot of time looking at the potential impacts on the different emergency service providers, specifically as it relates to the impact on the volunteer services. Our analysis really focuses primarily on the fiscal implications and the fiscal implications specifically to the jurisdiction in question. And so we're really wondering, our analysis really to focus on how will the increase in calls have a resulting impact on the budget in question. So we really were not, you know, we do not take into account necessarily the burnout rate or the workforce component. I can appreciate that is a concern and a real issue coming out of the last 4 years or so. But our analysis doesn't consider that. It really focuses primarily on the fiscal implications and the number of new calls that would likely be generated.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification, and I will just note for the record that the fiscal impact changes if we have to have a paid department. And it changes dramatically. And we have a population growth projected at the end here through 2026. And I don't know that necessarily accounts for the long-term, 2026, this may be just built, just open. And I know for the last 20 years, New Paltz Fire Services has really strained to answer to a lot of the calls. And so it's not a matter of if, in my opinion, they have to do a paid department, it's a matter of when. So when we're just considering that, and again, it doesn't sound like it's something we can do here based on existing financial impact with a volunteer department. But in the last year, we have had a reduction in our emergency medical services, and our EMS communities throughout the Hudson Valley have had, which have survived on volunteers, have not been able to, and municipalities have been forced to contract for very significant rates for basic ambulance services. I'm just saying it's something we need to be more realistic about in our considerations.
And is the limitation just the number of volunteers? Like,
yeah, because you've got professionals, or you've got volunteers who are being asked to respond 24/7. So there are fewer people who have jobs and employment where they're able to just stop, drop, and roll and go out at any time of the day or night. And there's a tight labor market, and people are less likely to have those opportunities to do the volunteering. And it can range, and again, having very close understanding what it entails, it can be a significant amount of time. Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I saw in a community where we had a volunteer ambulance squad, a volunteer fire department squad, and as time went on, the training requirements to become a an EMS professional and a volunteer firefighter are enormous. You don't just walk into a firehouse and they get a set of turnout gear and you're on a rig. It doesn't work that way, let alone an EMS person. There's hours of training that goes on continually. It's continual training. So it's very taxing on the volunteers to do this. And I completely agree with Nikki that in time, it's going to be very, very difficult to continue this as volunteer. Now, I think I understand that the EMS can bill private insurance companies to get some of this back. But even with that, and I saw that over 10 years, even with that, it became difficult to continue on. So eventually, it became a real strain to do this. And, you know, one can say we're only going to have net new residents of 413. That's 5% more people in this community. Because we're a small village.
And that's if there's only one person in the bed.
Well, no, their analysis says there's gonna be 400 people, okay, I'll take that. But it's not diminished, it's 5% additional to the population. There's a lot of communities in America that would love to have 5% more people living in, believe me. And there's an impact to that.
It's a huge impact. The increase is only gonna be 400 residents, but yet at the same time, they're arguing that the students will be moving out of places that are in the village. So therefore, the population is going to increase by the number of apartments, by the number of units that you have. You can't subtract it just because you're saying that people are gonna move, because when they move in there, someone else is gonna move into the places in the village to take their place. So I don't see how there's a net less. The math doesn't work. I mean, I have it both ways.
I assume that's explained somewhere, but
It
I
is,
would,
but it's,
I would think that some of
not
the
common sense.
landlords are going to be renovating their house in the village and removing some of these little rooms.
Why do you expect that?
it's passable. Yeah, not
Because it's not
necessarily.
as profitable to rent to students anymore and they want
There's
to.
plenty of students to go around. I don't expect that landlords are going to have any difficulties.
They're probably gonna go both ways. Some of them are
I think the student population is gonna fall from.
We have
that.
students,
Yeah.
we have students commuting from Highland, we have students commuting from Kingston, from Walkill, from the other side of the mountain. We have lots of young professionals that are living with their parents or living out of town and coming into town or want to be in town, but they just can't find a place.
Because of the
So,
price.
I think that I think we have a shortage of places to live. And I believe that our community will continue to grow because this is a beautiful place to live and people want to be here. And I don't foresee any landlords having any problems whatsoever.
Okay, I'm not saying they're gonna have a problem, I'm just saying.
I don't think there'll be any problems renting
They're
any
not gonna lower
rooms.
their prices, is what
I
I'm
mean, for
saying.
example, I'm a very, very small landlord. I only have a couple small things. And if I put an ad up, I can usually rent an apartment within 3 or 4 days.
Sure.
And, I just show them the place and they said, we need a place and there are no places. We really want to live here and they sign the lease.
Right, but you're not giving them any discounts. That's what I'm saying. It's
I
not
can't
gonna
afford to.
result-
I have to pay taxes and mortgages and I do upkeep on my apartments.
Sure, I'm just saying it's not gonna result in everyone lowering the prices. It's not,
I agree. I agree with you. I'm agreeing
I
with you.
don't know that, but I also don't know that that's actually what's gonna happen. So I've given.
None of us really know until it happens.
No. But I still, I hate to keep bringing this up, but the fact is that if you're gonna provide affordable housing, the structure itself should be conducive to providing affordable housing. If you're adding extra bathrooms where each bedroom has a bathroom, that's an extra expensive thing that families don't pay for. And also, if they're all furnished, families don't move into furnished apartments with a single bathroom. So if you're actually providing affordable housing for the community and not just for students, then the building should reflect that.
15% will be,
They're providing transient housing.
Right, but if 15% is, they're gonna call it affordable, right, but it's still not conducive to family moving in there because it's furnished. And it's like, it may be.
Well, what you're pointing out is that it makes it unaffordable because it's furnished and because of the extra amenity of the extra bathroom. So that's what drives up the price as well. So it makes it less affordable.
Right.
Well,
Doesn't make
let's be
sense.
clear,
Doesn't
Based
make
on the
sense.
income.
let's be clear about the affordable housing ordinance and the rules. First of all, for a family to move into an apartment that has multiple bathrooms, I think that's fantastic. If I can get a developer to build apartments with multiple bathrooms, and they agree to abide by our ordinance, I really don't care what his or her cost is to build that unit, because I'm gonna give him the rent. And he can charge no more, she can charge no more. If their cost to build a unit is 30% more because there's more bathrooms, thank you very much. I would love to put a family into an affordable unit with 3 bathrooms. I would love to do
But it'll
that.
be less affordable.
It will not change their rent.
They can't under the.
They
affordable
can't under
housing.
the ordinance.
It's,
The ordinance.
I understand what you're saying. However, what Rachel's saying, and I understand what she's saying, building an apartment with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms is much more expensive than building an apartment with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, or 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. And that in itself makes it less affordable. So even though we're gonna make the 10-15% off,
No, it's not a percent off. It's a
You're
separate.
mixing up the cost of an apartment to a family that meets our ordinance
I
requirements
understand that,
compared to an apartment for a family that does not.
okay?
I don't care what the developer pays to build the affordable unit. I don't care.
Okay.
If they want to put a premium into that, if they want to put Viking appliances in it, that's fine.
It's not.
Go ahead,
Thing, though.
because the rent is established by our ordinance.
The rent,
Three-year-old
the rent
doesn't
doesn't
have their own bathroom.
Yeah.
It is established in the ordinance, yes, it is, clearly.
they can
it
ask
is.
whatever they want for rents.
Not.
Not
No,
for
they
the
won't. Not for the affordable
It's going
units.
to, it's going to be a percentage off the other apartments.
No,
That's what-
No, it's based on the median income, it's based on income levels in the town and the county. And it has 0 relationship to how much it costs them to build it.
Zero.
It's 0
What
relationship.
relationship to how much the other apartments are?
That's what I want
Can't
to
be,
say,
no,
it can't
it's
be,
not.
no, it can't be.
It has nothing to do
No.
with what other people are paying.
No, it has nothing to do, it's based on income levels in the area and number of people as set by local law and as referenced
So the
by
local law is
county.
gonna dictate what the rental fee is going to be.
Yes.
It's limiting it though
Just
to,
for those 10 to 15.
right, but that 10 or 15, it limits it to that 10 or 15%. There wouldn't be a family that say might be able to afford an apartment there if it wasn't designed that way.
Well,
That's
the
right.
applicant is
This
not,
just-
the applicant is
I
not building
understand.
affordable housing, they're
I
building
understand they're
their.
not built, I understand that, but I'm saying that if
So we
you're
can't-
actually building it for residents other than students, the architecture should reflect that
Their needs.
and their needs, but whatever,
Oh,
it's not what they're
that's up to the developer.
right,
Yeah.
I got your point.
thank you. You don't want to put a 3-year-old to have their own bathroom in their room.
Having lived with 3 people in 1 bathroom for 15 years, I would take a second bathroom
Right.
regardless.
I get that, but I'm saying you kid, whatever.
I don't think the families who
Washing.
are given an opportunity to rent these apartments will
They'll be
object.
happy, I understand, I'm just saying.
Some save no furniture.
Practical, yeah, I mean, you can't bring.
Okay,
Alright.
well,
Oh, and
I wanna
I'll
move-
ask for a copy of the lease. I found this
Form,
page.
yeah.
What?
We don't have a lease form yet.
Don't use a standard form to write a company?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, it changes market to market, based
Wait.
on what's going on in the market.
You're
We
Pacero.
don't have a project approved yet to even put together a lease form, so. The lease has changed from, it did change from any municipality, every state, every county, all the different lease forms.
Are these gonna be 1-year leases?
They will be 1-year leases, yeah, they'll be 12-month leases.
Except for the affordable units,
Affordable will
they
be
will be 2 years.
whatever you said.
Okay.
I just wanted to understand too, so who are you representing right now?
I'm the owner, I'm the developer, I developed the project, and I'm the one that has the land under contract with Mike Moore now.
Okay, so you're the project sponsor, correct? Which is. And so when Pacero says that they're going to oversee them, this is separate from the management company. Which you're
Yes.
saying is gonna be,
Peak
Peak.
is, yeah, they're on, by the way, they're on.
Huh?
They're online if you have any questions as well.
Okay. So. In the response there, it said that the Pacero is gonna have some oversight over Peak Made.
Castro is our engineering firm
They're
and
just an
architecture
engineering
firm, and
firm.
architect, correct.
Okay, so Peak Made they're gonna be managing the place from the beginning.
Right now, we're planning to use Peak May for this project, yeah. So
Okay.
they'll be involved, they're involved already, we don't have a project.
Who's gonna own the project?
Myself and a group of my partners that we develop,
So Commercial Street Partners.
that's the entity that we are, yeah, CSP New Paltz is the entity.
And how long do you generally own a place before you sell it to a?
Could be 10 years, could be 3 years, could be 20 years. We've owned property for all different times. It depends on the market, depends upon the market conditions, depends on, a lot of different factors.
Okay, because I'm just trying to get some handle on where the accountability is gonna be.
It's gonna be with me. I'm the accountable person. I'm the one, developing. I've been here for
Okay.
4 years in front of you guys.
All right.
You don't recognize me?
I do recognize you, but I know that the building you pointed out as an example, you sold it to Scion.
Yeah, that was almost 8 years ago. Yeah,
Well, that was what you gave us for an example, so.
yeah. That's probably been in the
Good
process.
example.
Yeah,
Right, so they sold it, and Scion is a huge multinational corporation with terrible ratings for managing places, and Peak Made also has bad ratings too. If you're there, I'm sorry, but I Googled you.
Okay, yeah, is there anything that, what is it?
Of accountability, because if you talk about the community and and
And go back into this project, they all seem to be pretty successful still as a developed, anything developer still, whether we held on to them or sold them, they're all still, occupied at probably 97% and running very well and very well received within the community. You can call those town supervisors, their fire departments, their EMS, their the schools that we operate them with. We have great relationships with all the schools that we do work with, please go call whomever you want to call.
okay, well, no, I looked into it, I can give you all the links, it was kind of scary.
Okay, is there anything in the FEIS related to that needs to be changed? From with?
Yeah, I think if there are specific changes that we want to ask for, now's the time. So if there's something that and the board would have to agree, right? So the board would have to agree to changes. If there's anything about the EMS service that should be phrased differently or whatever, this is the time for the board to decide on that.
I personally would like to see it reflect the fact that this is not, right now, it feels very conclusory and without kind of recognition of some of the things that we're facing here. And I would appreciate it if it gave some context.
Sure, the
about
first
those
time
things.
someone brought up the volunteer, the fire department being a volunteer, is really one that we've really discussed that before, so we can look into it a little bit and try to, bring some context to it and address it.
Thank you.
Whether we can address it directly and do anything about it is,
I don't know,
totally
just,
address it. I do know that one of our other projects that she mentioned that another operator now owns, we sold, is in upstate, in Rochester, town of Henrietta, and they have a full volunteer department. And
Henrietta's volunteer.
Henrietta's volunteer department, I'm pretty sure. And, I've never once, and I've done 4 projects in that town, both student housing, conventional housing, probably built 1,000 units in that town, and never once have I had the fire marshal, come to me and say, this is a major problem for our volunteer. And I don't say that as, there's not an issue, but it's a big city too, right? But I will even ask him, what his thoughts are, the impact of all these houses might, all those new units have had on his force.
I would appreciate it. Having lived there, I'm shocked that it's fully volunteer, but
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily surprised. It's a different place.
I'll double check. And there's obviously a much larger population there too that serves it, that may have an impact, that they don't struggle with volunteers, but I'll ask.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we'll add it to the FES.
I mean, I know that, the more staff that you have, on,
Zena.
oh, sorry, I apologize.
That's okay. I'm sorry, did you want to complete your thought and then I'll go?
More staff that you guys have at your complex, the easier it is for our local volunteers.
100%. Yeah,
For example, when SUNY New Paltz has their own police department, it saves our police department. It saves our fire department every time the fire alarm goes off, if it's popcorn, if it's
I think
this.
they still go. I think they still go, don't
They
they?
do go,
Yeah.
but they don't have to go if it's popcorn or if it's people smoking weed or, different things that set off fire alarms and.
No, if they fireworks
Hazard
off,
thing.
they have to just fine.
Having the on-campus police at SUNY saves the community a lot of money and saves the volunteers a lot of time with the student population.
Yeah.
When you have a student population, that's one of the reasons that I like to see more staffing.
We
at
have,
the
I think
location.
we've already we identified with the projected staff model.
I saw that.
Probably about 10 people between full and part-time, and we always have.
But
at least
at night,
one or
with
two
somebody on call, you can call a number.
Always, yeah, 100%, all the time. There's always somebody on staff, usually a tech to manage some of the more technical.
But I don't see
And
security.
We don't have security. We don't usually need security. I don't think we have zero security at any of our properties. So there's not an issue. We manage it. We're there 24/7. So we secure the property. We secure these
You
units
secure the property how?
through managing it, through bodies, people being there.
So let's say there's a young girl coming home at night and she feels like she's being followed. Is there a button somewhere she can
No,
press?
she's gonna call 911. We can't provide that type of.
So it's not like
coverage.
any kind of a gated community with any
No.
safety precautions for your residents?
Well, yeah, there's safety precautions in the sense that we've got cameras on the property to oversee things, and we have presence, having the property well lit and bodies there and people there to, on a 24/7 basis. And sometimes if we do need it in a new community that feels like they need security, we'll have a third-party security company kind of oversee it for a period of time until we adjust the management's, schedules.
Do you have fobs for all the doors?
Yeah,
for the main
everybody's fobbed.
doors?
Everybody's fobbed in. You go into your bedroom, you fob in your building, you fob in your bedroom, it's separate, so your bedroom is private, secure, no one can come in there except for you, because you're the one with fob.
So there's a fob for the downstairs, the main door for the community door, then there's a fob for the apartment, and there's
Yes.
another fob for your room?
Well, your fob does all those.
Well, but what I'm saying is to
Yeah,
go to all those
everywhere,
places, you
everywhere.
need it, and for the pool,
Pools, I mean, it's usually locked, after dark, whatever
no,
else.
but during the day, anybody can enter, or there's a
No,
fob for the pool?
No, you have to fob in, no, well, during opening hours, during the hours of operation, the clubhouse is open and people can come, there's staff, when the clubhouse is closed. The
So,
pool is closed,
so my
but-
question is, do you need an ID? I mean, can anybody walk into the pool?
No, you have to come in, you've got to live on the property. Yes, you need a fob to
You
get
need a
into.
pass
You need a fob to get in.
to get into the pool.
Yes.
Okay. That's my question.
Okay, but we also, gas, other people come into the pool, we're not
Right.
monitoring, not checking people's IDs coming to the pool. Right now, we've residents, have friends, they have families, people come in and use
understand
all the amenities, yeah,
And they should.
and they
Do you
will.
have non-employees? Are any of them gonna be able to, are you gonna provide any of them with housing on the property?
Yeah, usually some,
How many?
one or two, I don't know, probably usually one or two usually live on property,
Two of them living on the property.
probably somewhere, it depends on, the occupancy of the property, depends on how many people we actually need, that is a projection for the number of units that we have. Is projecting about, 9 to 10, staff. So if we feel it needs more full-time employees and more on-site residents, we would staff up. Never had a problem with it on any project we built.
No, I think it's a good thing because it alleviates the traffic situation if your employees actually are provided with a place to live. It solves a lot of problems. I have a question. It said that, on here, that the town wetlands inspector did a wetlands
Yeah,
inspection.
yep.
I never saw it. I never, it says it happened on
Well,
August.
I can
I,
respond to that, because Alex and I were on site when it happened. He reported back to the town. We did not get a copy of the report, but Alex and I were both present when he did the inspection. He agreed with the, what Mr. Nowicki had mapped. And, so. But it went because the town was the one that requested it, and he works for the town. His response went back to the town,
We
so,
should get that for the
Yeah.
FEIS,
yeah,
yeah.
but yes, it's
Also,
happened.
I would have liked to have been there as well, but all right. The other question I had was about, I asked this question before. You kept talking about this crushed stone that was gonna go on the path, but then in places in the FEIS, it says asphalt and crushed stone. Can you tell me more about that?
We can run through that during, you know, the site plan approval process, because it's probably shown as crushed stone, which I prefer instead of asphalt, but,
It's gonna be crushed stone. It's a crushed stone and asphalt, so we just.
it may be a doubt, so, yeah. There might be some parts of the path that were, you know, closer to buildings that was used as asphalt, like as you're crossing over.
That's what you meant by it, and this is what I'm trying to get clarity on that. That's what you meant, that most of the path is gonna be crushed stone and then there are gonna be small sections of asphalt, but it's not the two at the same time. It's not crushed stone and asphalt on the entire path. That's what I'm trying to.
I think we would, you know, hash out that detail during site plan review, but I would imagine all pathways are gonna be crushed stone.
Okay, I just.
No, the way that
I'm-
Rachel said it was correct. It's going to be primarily crushed stone. There's certain areas that we would have asphalt, like over the wetland crossing, but it's primarily crushed stone. It's not both.
Asphalt over the wetland crossing? Is that what
But
you
the
said?
bridge, if you're crossing over the
Oh,
wetland,
bridge, okay,
bridging over a crossing,
okay.
maybe, or maybe that's just a bridge. The
There's a
culvert,
culvert. It's a culvert.
with probably a bridge and maybe some asphalt. So yeah, small sections, you know, required like that.
Okay.
The board is that I have one thing to bring up on the FEIS.
Well, let me just ask. You know, I think we've all heard a lot from the community about this being student housing, and they would rather that it be considered multifamily housing. The response letter just says, well, to be consistent with the DEIS, we're gonna leave it the same way. Please change it to multifamily housing.
Well, I think what we kind of discussed that the last time when we were here and didn't want to confuse the community to say that we're now doing a bait and switch. We were doing this, you know, student housing the whole way, and then like, oh, you know what, it'll be easier if we convert it and say it's multifamily. It is multifamily. All apartments in here in the community are multifamily. This board, prior to your joining, you know, focused on this being a student housing project and couldn't get over the fact that it is, you're right, but it's still multifamily. And thought that we were trying to go around something by not calling it student housing. So we went the dumb path saying it's student housing, it's X number of units, and it's operated by the bed. And that was, I think, the clarity that was confusing some. I agree with you. Everywhere else, we do an application. The code, like student housing is not a represented, a type of use. So it's multifamily. I agree. We'll do what you guys instruct us to do, but I think we kept it in there because we wanted to kind of be consistent since the very beginning. So it didn't look like or be perceived by anybody in the public that we were trying to change this at the last minute for some reason.
And I apologize for interrupting, but could the compromise be both, say student and multifamily?
Sure.
Because that, I understand what you're saying, I also definitely understand what Terry's saying, and I've heard all the families comment, the public's comments,
So why doesn't just get clarified by a paragraph that gives the context there?
Sure.
This was developed with the understanding, we understand it's gonna be multifamily, but in the in the spirit of transparency, we want the community to be clear that this wasn't a bait and switch and that this is, I think building on what your answer is here, but building it out and explaining that, I think would be helpful context.
I'm just imagining a 3-year-old using the key fob to get into the room, then the room's locked, and then they drop the key fob in the toilet in their private bathroom.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of us.
I'm sorry, but
But I'm sure there will be some very animated discussions between the Affordable Housing Board and the developer about some of the things that are in these units.
Or the
That's
3-year-old's
what we
gonna
want.
teach everybody how to use the fob.
Whatever.
Question, can I ask a clarifying question? There's an item in here talking about rental by the bedroom versus rental by the apartment. And I may have missed something. Are the rentals gonna be by the bedroom or by the apartment?
They're individual bedroom units.
Okay, that's not what this says here. On page 9 of the response letter, it says, the Affordable Housing Board took rental by bedroom off the table.
Yeah,
Is this
so for
trying
the
to say that
only on the affordable units that are any of the affordable units, however many that come up with,
Uh-huh.
we've already agreed that those will be operated by the unit.
Okay,
No matter how many bedrooms are in it.
okay.
And Terry's already, said that the highest demand for unit types from his request are 1-bedroom units and 2-bedroom units.
So I think the response could just be clarified, because I read it wrong the first time and now I see what it means, but it was unclear. So rental by the bedroom is off the table only for the affordable
So
units.
does that mean,
Same way you.
does that mean like for the students that they don't pick their own group, that you guys just assign them?
They come to us with a group.
And then they will go into their unit and then, but each person gets a unit.
Each person gets an.
And each person gets a lease with their room.
With their room, so.
But
if-
you're not
so-
gonna just take people and randomly put them into different apartments together.
Yeah. Sometimes kids come to school, transfer, come
Sure.
late, and they don't have a apartment, they don't have
Sure.
anywhere to live, and they need a roommate, and there's an extra bed.
That's different.
And we accommodate them, however we
Right.
can. And if they can only, if we have an empty 2-bedroom unit, they're only gonna pay the rent for that 1 bedroom, even though the other bedroom
I
is
see.
empty. So
But generally, you're working with the groups.
generally, they come in with all their friends.
Right.
And they already know who they want to be roommates with.
Right.
So I would say
But
90.
you hold each bedroom accountable for their own lease.
Yeah, they're accountable for their lease. Yeah, they're accountable for everything. And that way it's much easier to manage when one resident who's not paying their rent or taking care of their unit or their apartment like they're supposed to by the terms of the lease, we can terminate that lease.
So when
And
that
one
person,
bedroom.
so let's say, for example, a group of 4 people come together.
Mhm.
And one person is defunct and does not pay the rents. That person gets kicked out of the apartment. Then you, as a manager, finds a replacement roommate for the group.
No, we allow their tenants to find if they have another friend who wants to fill that. None of those friends are impacted by that roommate who left. Their rent doesn't change, their expenses don't change. That's all locked in for that individual for their term.
And how long are the leases? Are they for,
Almost.
they're for a year? Okay.
Years. Yep.
So the person gets kicked out and then you say, okay, well, we need to fill this place. So either you guys find somebody or we're gonna
Well,
find somebody.
Yes, do you have a friend who wants to fill this? And if they can't fill it, we would probably place them in there or not.
The responsibility does not lay on the residents that are in the unit and have been left behind at all. The other item I'd add to that is Peak does utilize a national roommate matching software program as well. So on top of what Tom has mentioned of groups coming together, we do have individuals that don't have any roommates and don't know anyone. And we utilize that software, which is gender inclusive and takes that into account as well to match residents together.
Do you use software to determine the rental price?
We do not.
We said that we use it's market rate. It's whatever, the market can bear. It's what kids are paying right now in town. I think our rates will be very similar to what they're paying at, New Pulse Gardens or the, other place around the corner. So we're not gonna build something that students can't afford, so we don't fill up.
And utilities are included in the rent.
There's a cap on utilities, so they're not just, leaving windows open and everything else. And so we also monitor that. We could, we have they're all smart buildings, so the thermostats are speaking to our software and telling us who's, leaving the windows open or cranking the heat or cranking the AC. And those are.
So if they
those are
go
usually-
over a certain threshold, then they get a bill?
They'll get a charge, they'll get a
surplus.
A surplus charge, yeah, they will.
Well, again, with the affordable units, that, we won't be able to do that. The rents are established based on apartments that are, where you do pay your own utilities and where you don't. You can't have it both ways, so we'll have to work that
Yeah, we
out.
could do that, we use,
We'll work that out.
yeah, we use a national service called Conservis that manages all the utilities, down to the bedroom. And we bill back if there are overages
Even the
to
water,
residents. Pardon me?
even the water you do that with?
We can sub-meter everything and bill back everything if we want.
Except for the affordable units, you're not gonna be able to. do
Sure, that's fine.
So,
Yep,
We'll
we'll
work
put that on,
we'll work that.
we build these buildings with, they're smart, there's technology on everything in these buildings. And our residents are using smart technology to live a more convenient life. And so, we actually manage utilizing all those technologies.
We might be getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah,
on
I
the
think so.
BIS before us.
Yeah,
Mike, did you have?
It's very likely before the next time this board meets that the village board is gonna adopt the 15%. So I would suggest that this be reflective of I know it still says 10% because at the time, but they took lead agency, they referred it to the county, they probably will be able to be voting next Tuesday. Next Wednesday. So I would suggest that it be changed to 15% throughout, and anything else that has to change to reflect that. Because it won't be accurate by the time this board.
So what do we, I'm gonna get into defer to Zena to try to figure out what is our action item here and what we're being asked and what of our responses have been, are being accepted, if we have received comment from you on these responses. Doesn't sound like any comment here other than Rachel's comment on the demand for housing or the backfill of housing is anything substantial. So
Well, I think that the explanation of multifamily and student, I think that's crucial to the community.
Okay.
I mean, there was also the part about EMS services and volunteer fire department.
And I think Emily's question about because I read it the same way she did, that all the rentals, all the leases would be per unit, not per bedroom. So I think that just needs to be clarified.
Yep.
And then anywhere is a reference to the 10%, change to 15, and then the numbers would change accordingly. And I don't know that the board really discussed yet, the breakdown of the affordable units. The percentage that's followed is what was reflected.
Well, we
from the
can't
county
yet, right?
department.
I've stated before and I'll say it again, I would rather we not get that specific at this level.
Yeah.
I think it was
Because-
given as an example,
Okay.
right? Or
You could say
illustration.
as an example.
Yeah.
I would not want to be held to the percentages that are in this report.
Because the need may be different from time to time. Yeah.
Correct. I mean, I can assure the developer, we're not going to need 24 bedroom units. I can guarantee you that.
Okay, do we need to have a fixed breakdown? But, okay, unit by unit, so maybe in that case,
and that's something we should get until we get in the site plan review anyways.
yeah,
And we're making major assumptions.
yeah, so I would
Yeah, we
prefer
don't want to get
to
it.
not have sense.
It'll work.
Well, I honestly don't think there's much more that we can do tonight. I think this board needs a little more time to digest these changes, and there's also, some of.
I think
our
there's
members were-
all, minor comments from us we can get those changes reflected quickly here within a week, not less. So what is this, what's the next scheduled step and where are we, so in the acceptance of this
Well, our next meeting is September 3rd, but the second is Labor Day, so. What does the board feel? When can you get the comments back to us is more the question. The changes.
I'll defer to Zena.
Hard to say, another week or so.
Well, given that, I would probably say we should put them on the agenda for the 17th.
Well,
They're here before the long weekend. I think.
yeah. I think that I think we should still discuss this at the next meeting.
Okay.
In case there are other things that, arise that the board wants to talk about, or, ask to change. However, I do want to wrap this process up, and I do want to, finalize the FEIS and vote, adopt it. So maybe that would come second meeting of September.
Would you like me to write a resolution to adopt it, or do you want to wait until we see the comment?
Let's wait. For the next one.
So do you want me to keep the red line changes that I've made already and then just add the additional ones that we talked about tonight? That way you can see it in total context?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can provide us your comments. Is that gonna be sent to you?
I can email it to you.
Yeah.
She emailed it, so I'll forward the email to you.
Yes, if you could provide with, a list of specific comments you want addressed in the document, then that is what I will respond to and provide you with red line changes for review.
Okay. I just edited some of the language too. I think
Yeah.
more closely reflect reality.
Yeah, and please send it to just the whole board. so we
Yeah,
can
I
see it.
did.
So just to clarify, because I'll send that email, so we have the EMS and fire. We have changed to 15%. We have Rachel's comments that I'm gonna provide the text. And Terry, you had, the multifamily
Student.
Student.
Some explanation.
Any breakdown or? Yes.
and remove the breakdown. And then also, to Emily's point, clarify the lease.
Wait, are we removing the breakdown of affordable units? I thought it just says in there that it's an illustration.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just an illustration.
Yeah.
It's just an illustration, but if it's confusing people, maybe
It's misleading.
it's better to just take it out.
If we can take it out, I would recommend we take it out.
I'll take a look at it, but I think it changes the context of that paragraph of what we're trying to get to is that we're trying to display or describe how we plan on at least approaching the Affordable Housing Board by meeting the law. That's why that example is in there. And I even highlighted that a little bit more, but I can do it again in a different way if you feel that that's necessary, or delete it either way. Just let me know.
Maybe just add better text instead of just saying sample, add a little paragraph before stating that this is one way, or this is a potential way, or just some sort of language rather than just the word sample.
It does say that.
Okay,
But I'll take another shot at it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's all for tonight. Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
You ready to go?
Thank you.
And could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Hi.
Now, I starts at 11, so this is like.